And a good Sunday morning to you. I'm Andrea Oliver. Welcome to this edition of Polk County Today. More than likely, you've heard his work. My guest has been called a creative genius by many and is a member of the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts and Sciences class of 2016. He has a list of acclaimed works to his name, including composing for the multiple Oscar-nominated movie American Sniper, as well as What's Eating Gilbert Grape. His other credits include The Revenant, favorite of mine, The Book of Eli, and the documentary, listen up, The Lives of Quincy Jones. I'm excited today to have in studio with me Joseph DeBeasi, and I am so looking forward to our conversation. He did not come by himself, ladies and gentlemen. We have in studio a multi-visitor sitting right next to him, Dr. Craig Collins, who is the Dean at the College of Arts and Media at Southeastern University. We're going to find out what these two men are up to, why they're here together, and a huge event set for early next year that is a must be a part of. So we'll get to that. Gentlemen, welcome to Polk County Today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I read somewhere, and I'm going to take the liberty to call you Joseph. I read somewhere that you said life is not a problem to fix, but an adventure to love and live. Yes. And I just want to ask you, how does that play into how you go about composing music for these fantastic movies?
That's a great question. It's not my quote. It's something that I read years ago because many years ago I did live life as a problem to fix. And then I just had an awareness that life is not, when I read that quote, I'm like, oh, right. Life is not a problem to fix, but it's an adventure to live.
I think a lot of people are very familiar with fabulous work you've put out, in particular as it relates to the many movies we've had an opportunity to see. American Sniper comes to mind, and in a previous conversation that we had, I remember you were so keen in pointing out that American Sniper is not a war movie. It's a love story.
Correct.
A story that is about a man, his family, his love for country, and I have to wonder if when you approached scoring this movie, is that where you started or is that where you ended?
That's a great question. It's where I started. Because it was evident in the film itself. When you see the movie, it's really about one man's journey and his work and his life and how much he loves his wife and family, and what his job, the effects that it took on his life. And so it just happened to be set in a war setting, but this story could have taken place in any other setting. And also knowing the movies that Clint Eastwood produces and directs, they are all about the heart. You know, it's always about an inner, well, I shouldn't say always. Most of the time, those are inner driving stories about the human journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There is an old, and I think it's an old English saying, Dr. Collins, you're the educator among us. It says,
I think we're all educated.
in some rights, music soothes the savage breast. That's the saying, and reference, I think, to where the heart is held and the soul. And so I have to ask you, as a musician, as a composer, is the aim as you write music, compose, to soothe the savage breast?
That's a great question. Not always. Sometimes you write to invigorate, you know, to challenge, to present a drive. So, but if I had I find that for me, if I had my choice, and what I would tend to lean towards would be more of that soothing place, because that's just my nature, to write something that is, I don't want to say romantic, but more attuned to the heart. And it's something that I've just discovered about myself as I've progressed throughout my career, and I hear the reflections back from people. And now I've been able to look back at that and acknowledge that and say, yeah, that's really true. That's really kind of from where I live.
Joseph DeBeasi is our guest today. He is a composer par excellence. You have heard his many works. We highlighted some of his acclaims, some of the things you've been involved in at the top of the program. I am pleased to see, sir.
I'm being called sir.
That the creative genius does not stop at writing music. Not one-dimensional at all, which is probably very true about most creative people. Right. And so you have stepped over, is that the word, into acting?
Yes.
And I kind of want to ask a little bit about that, and what are your goals, dreams for that other part of the business?
Well, I'll give you a little bit of history. About 6 years ago, I was in this artist way class, which I would highly recommend to anybody, particular artist. And one of the questions that popped up was, if you could do anything in the world, what would you do? And immediately my mind popped up as, I'd love to act. And I was doing this class in the group, and nobody really knows who you are. And they all said, we already thought you were an actor. I'm like, no, I don't do act. It's like, but as a child, some of your heroes that you see in movies and television, it just something was from within. And, the class for me is about play. So I was just playing, like, yeah. Well, within that week, I had a headshot. I didn't have headshots. I had an acting class. Somebody in my Artist Way class knew of an acting teacher and studio. And I was on my way to an acting lesson, and literally, this is no joke, driving there to my acting lesson, hands on the steering wheel, screaming, "What have I done to myself?" And then fell in love because I was able to start understanding how to go deeper into the human journey.
Yes.
Of our psyche and of our soul and our spirit. And so I'm training, and I've been able to do a few things here and there, but as a musician, you woodshed. You get in that closet and you practice. I'm a trumpet player, and you just practice and practice. You don't go say, I'm going to join a band now.
Yes.
So I'm woodshedding, and my hope is that perhaps in another 3 more years or so, I'll be able to play with the best of them.
Wow.
So we'll see.
You are already doing that in the area of composition, and we're so excited to have you in our Central Florida area today. I know that you are collaborating with some fantastic folks, people we love in this community, and it's for a fabulous cause. And which brings me over to my friend Craig Collins, and if you would, tell us exactly about the alliance here and Sinfonia.
All right. Sinfonia, connecting the arts and community, is really about using music as the catalyst for showing the power of story. And the story in this case is about our military personnel. And so Warner Brothers has released Joseph so that he can write a suite of the music from American Sniper. But most importantly, and we have community members that will be conducting on the concert. We have someone from the church. But part of and of course we have the SCU choir performing and so forth, but really the evening is hinging upon honoring our military throughout the evening. But critical to that process is that Joseph has been interviewing veterans and hearing their stories. And so the College of Arts and Media has commissioned him to write a piece and he's writing a piece, and I truly believe it's the first of its kind ever to be world premiered at this event on March 20th. And it's about the emotions that our military personnel encounter when they return back from deployment and having served in war. And the past 2 days have been quite emotional. Would you agree with that?
Very.
I know that you go into such a plan and you have an initial vision, and you say it is to honor our military. What will cause this to be a great success? And I'm going to throw that to you, and then I'm going to ask you, Joseph.
But that's a wonderful question as well. And there's many aspects to that, because we have elected officials involved, we have unique leaders in the community, we have students involved, we have athletes involved. So it really does comprise community all coming together, different interests coming together. The cost for the event is nominal rather than phenomenal. $15. And I want to emphasize the reason that it's that way is so that we can bring people to the event. It's not about the haves. It's not about the have-nots. And so we're seeking the sponsorships so that we can provide the opportunity for all of our community, both locally and regionally.
Joseph, what will cause this to be a success in your eyes?
Acknowledgement, not of me, but of the men and women who have served and have come home, and to acknowledge their sacrifices. And it's not to sound cliche, because it's not. Their sacrifices go beyond on the battlefield. Coming home, there are a lot of sacrifices that happen, and the integration back into their lives. And some have struggled really immensely. And hearing some of their stories, it's profound what some of these men and women had to have endured on our behalf.
Yes.
And that's something that, in terms of the acknowledgement, is to really be aware. Now, I'm just going to say this, that, and I'll say this about, it correlates with some interviews that I've had about American Sniper and what you brought up earlier. It's not about war. I don't think there's anybody that I've met thus far, even friends of mine who are serving in military, who love war, but they love us, and they want, and they're doing this to protect us at their sacrifice, and so it's about being grateful and acknowledging them.
What made it a project that you wanted to be involved with, Joseph?
Well, it initially it started with a phone call and of interest. Would I be interested in it? And it just grew because we didn't even know what the program was going to be like.
Wow.
We didn't. It just was an idea that
Just bantering back and forth over the phone.
that Craig had, and we started talking. I think back in March. I want to
Correct.
say.
Correct.
And everything. Every time you throw an idea, that sounds interesting. Oh, that sounds like a great idea. Why don't we try that? And it just kept on growing, and here we are.
The event takes place, as you say, in March. At this point, you're looking sponsors. It's going to be at Victory Church, and there'll be all kinds of information online everywhere in the next few months.
Right.
Leading
They go to
up
SCU.arts/events, and they'll be able to see it.
See all of that. Real quick, make a push for sponsorship and how folks can get involved with that.
Yes. I have to say this really quick. Retired Colonel Gary Clark he texted me this morning, and I said, out of the piece that he's been commissioned to write, hoping that our military people find peace of mind and spirit. But yes, we need sponsorships because we're keeping it low so that everybody can come. We want to pack the house. We want to honor our military personnel. And so if they will contact me at Southeastern University, I would be happy to be more than privileged to talk to them and talk about how to make a gift for the cause.
Dr. Craig Collins, Joseph DeBeasi, what an honor to have you gentlemen in studio with me today and talking. Thank you for joining us, and thank you. We'll talk again next week.